Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Unitarian Congregation of Mendon and Uxbridge with Reverend Patricia Hatch. My name is Matthew Marion, and today I'm going to be starting off with Gather the Spirit, number 347.
Good morning, and welcome again to the Unitarian Congregation of Mendon and Uxbridge. I'm so glad each of you is with us today. Wherever you're viewing this service from, the few folks that are here in person or those others who are viewing online, welcome to all of you. Today's chalice lighting is called For the Web of Life by Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice for the web of life, which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for the mystery. Please join me in saying the unison affirmation of the congregation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Later in the service, we will have the candles for joys and concerns and milestones. So I will invite the few folks that are present here to come forward and light their own candles this morning if they like. And if you're watching this online, you're invited to send in your joys and concerns via the live stream chat or the contact form on the webpage. Our opening hymn is called Swimming to the Other Side, words by Pat Humphreys and Sandy O. This is a very special song. At the UU camp in Maine, Ferry Beach, for my children when they were younger, they had this as their bridging ceremony song. So the young person would be on one side of the bridge, and all the people there would sing, Swimming to the Other Side, and the young people would cross over on the boardwalk closer to the ocean and become young adults when they reached the other side. And we would have lit torches to light the way. It was very beautiful. I want to read a few of the words, since Matt will be playing this as an instrumental. We are living neath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in this stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. And then the last stanza, all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. Today's story is called A Garden is Born. It's from the UU Tapestry of Faith program called Riddle and Mystery by Richard Kimball, adapted. Where previously there had been nothing, now there was something. Within a black hole, a singularity developed. A singularity is an area in a black hole where the density is so great, the pressure squeezes bits of finite matter into a piece of infinite matter. Riddle and mystery. Many scientists support this theory of how the universe began. They call the birth of the universe the Big Bang theory. But there wasn't really a bang, because it didn't happen instantaneously. The singularity began to cool off, and as that happened, it expanded to become the entire universe we know today. It's still cooling, expanding, and changing, even as I speak. Today, it's about 156 billion light years wide. Can you imagine how big that is? Riddle and mystery. Atoms became molecules. Molecules of different elements clustered together to form galaxies. Gaseous clouds of molecules formed into suns. Other gases became rock particles. Bunches of rock particles collided and stuck together and became our Earth. Earth has a non-living atmosphere of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Somehow, these elements managed to form themselves into living creatures. Planetary processes brought these elements together to form amino acids and nucleic acids, the building blocks of life. And they created single-celled organisms that grow and reproduce. How did these non-living elements become life? Many theories exist, but no one knows for sure. Riddle and mystery. Yet we do know these single-celled organisms, like bacteria, changed over time. As organisms evolved, they became more complex. Single-celled creatures, probably living in the sea, evolved into life forms with trillions of cells. And these life forms now live in the sea, in the air, and on land. Life became more plentiful. The barren rock became a garden. Since all life has a common ancestor, all life is linked. And since all life has requirements to stay healthy and alive, we have a responsibility. It isn't just that my survival may depend on your survival. My survival depends on the survival of trees and plants that create oxygen, and the survival of particular bacteria which live in my intestines. All life is connected and dependent on other life forms. Riddle and mystery. Riddled, mysterious, beautiful. This is now the time in the service when you are invited to bring your gifts and offerings. If you are online, there will be a PayPal link posted in the live stream chat, and you can send in your donations that way, or you can send in a check to the church. And we also want to acknowledge all those who give up their time and their talent as well as their treasure. And we thank you. Go ahead.
This next piece I'm going to be playing for you today is Consolation, from a set of six works that Franz Liszt had written back in the 1850s.
we have a special guest today who is going to be doing a little presentation for us. I'm excited to introduce Vern Thayer.
Thank you, Patricia. I'll be glad when this is over, huh? Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. And what a beautiful church you people have here. This is amazing. Again, yes, I'm Vern Thayer. I'm an artist. And I was asked by the Blackstone Valley to paint something historic in Mendon. They received grants from different towns in Mendon, and she asked me if I would paint something historic. And I felt like I haven't been helping out the Blackstone Valley Art Association enough, so I said, sure, I'll do something. And right away I thought of this church. I had painted this before once from Washington Street. But I looked around and I kept coming back here. So I walked around the parking lot and everything, and the gentleman let me inside to see it and everything. And come to find out, it was your 200th anniversary. I thought, how did that, it was just by chance that I was asked to do a painting, and here it is, your 200th anniversary. So that made it very special. And my history is in Mendon. I have ancestors that settled Mendon. And I thought, gee, how bizarre is that, hundreds of years later, a descendant would be painting the church on the 200th anniversary of the church. And I also found out that the plaque out there has a Thayer on there, and he would be a cousin. And it just kept coming together, that this was meant to be. I was destined to paint this painting. And I'm so happy that I was asked. So, without any more to do about it, let me take the thing off. Thank you. Thank you. I did two smaller ones that day. Patricia was there. It was a hot day. I did one from the side and one from the back there. And I was totally spent by the end of that. But from the two, I came up with this one. And I'm happy with it. And I'm glad it's here. It's coming back here. So it's just a full circle. It's great. Thank you very much.
Vern is giving this painting to the congregation. Thank you. I said you're giving the painting to the congregation. It's a gift. We thank you so much, Vern. It means so much to us as well. Also, for another coincidence, Vern was out there painting the very first week I started as minister here in the fall, and I got to meet him then. And we've been keeping in touch ever since then. So it's been a lovely stream of coincidences, or as Vern said, perhaps destiny. And again, we thank you so much. It will look beautiful in our church for ages to come. Mm-hmm. So you all who are online will have to come in and see it in person one of these days. I would now like to invite you into a time of meditation. We have a spoken meditation this morning, and then I will play my singing bowl, and then Matt will play Spirit of Life. The spoken meditation is a lovely piece called This Is How We Are Called by Kimberly Byer Nelson. Let's begin by taking a few deep breaths together. In the hours before the birds stream airborne, with chiming voice, a silent breath rests in the pines and upholds the surface of the lake as if it were a fragile bubble in the very hand of God. And I think this is how we are called, to cup our hands and hold this peace, even when the sirens begin, even when sorrow cries out, old and gnarled, even when words grow fangs and rend. Cupped hands, gently open, supporting peace like the golden hollow of a singing bowl, like the towering rim of mountains cradling this slumbering and mist-draped valley. Peace. After my sermon, the musical interlude will be Reflections by Monk. Today's sermon is called More Than 1,000 Fibers. I will begin and conclude my sermon with poems today. The first poem is called The Same Stream of Life by Rabindranath Tagore. The same stream of life that runs through my veins night and day runs through the world and dances in rhythmic measures. It is the same life that shoots in joy through the dust of the earth in numberless blades of grass and breaks into tumultuous waves of leaves and flowers. It is the same life that is rocked in the ocean cradle of birth and of death, in ebb and in flow. I feel my limbs are made glorious by the touch of this world of life, and my pride is from the life throb of ages dancing in my blood this very moment. As Unitarian Universalists, one of our principles that we affirm and promote is respect for the interdependent web of life, the web of all existence of which we are a part. The relationships and ecosystems are complex and widespread. Every species of plant and animal has their own roles to play in the bigger whole. Take bats, for example. Over 500 plant species rely on bats to pollinate their flowers, including species of banana, mango, and cocoa. You may know that bats help reduce the number of mosquitoes, and they also eat other insects as well. In fact, farmers can sometimes use fewer pesticides on their crops because bats are so good at eating insects. And like birds, some bats also play a critical role in dispersing the seeds of trees and other plants. Anglican preacher Henry Melville said, "You cannot live for yourselves. 1,000 fibers connect you with your fellow men, fellow people." Henry Melville said this in a sermon in 1855. It is often misattributed to novelist Herman Melville. If we need any proof about how much we are connected to people all over the world, the pandemic gave us undeniable proof. The vast majority of people across the globe were affected in some way by the virus. A large number of people died, others became ill. And people who avoided these tragedies may have been affected by fear, isolation, financial disruption, loss of plans, etc. COVID didn't respect any geographic or human-made boundaries. There was no wall big enough to keep the virus out. Likewise, when we finally completely defeat the virus or get it down to a much smaller version, like the seasonal flu, when we get to that point, it will benefit all of us. Henry Melville's quote talks about the 1,000 fibers that connect us to other people. The fibers also connect us to the world around us. Well over 1,000 fibers connect us to the wider world. Buddhist leader Thich Nhat Hanh said, "You carry Mother Earth within you. She is not outside of you. Mother Earth is not just your environment. Fear, separation, hate, and anger come from the wrong view that you and the earth are two separate entities." That is a dualistic way of seeing. So breathe in, be aware of your body, and look deeply into it, and realize you are the earth, and your consciousness is also the consciousness of the earth. How can we grow more awareness of our deep interconnection we have with all? As Thich Nhat Hanh suggested, we can breathe. We can become more aware of our breathing. Our breathing connects us to the whole world. We breathe in oxygen produced by all kinds of plants and trees. The plants and trees get their energy from the sun. You could say that we are breathing in sun energy. And in turn, we breathe out carbon dioxide, which is what the plants need. This simple, seemingly simple, basic biological process connects us with the sun and with the plants we share this world with. Likewise, when we eat, We are either eating other plants in some form or animal products. And the animals who gave the milk or the eggs or their lives, those animals ate plants. So you could also say we eat sun energy as well. My friend Taliesin Grenfell-Lee is an ecologist, and she suggests that whenever we eat, we can think of the plants growing and stretching toward the sun. And as we eat them, we can remember that they gave their lives to nourish us. We can also think of the people who grew them, harvested them, and brought them to us with kindness. Taliesin adds that if you see any other creatures or plants outside your windows, you can greet them and bless them. You can also learn about these neighboring creatures and plants. Taliesin suggests that these practices will help grow both compassion and awareness. We are partaking of the life-giving energy of the sun in more than one way. Today I woke up thankful, feeling gratitude for the sun more than ever before after I spent time reflecting on this for the sermon. In considering our interconnection, plants are good things to start with, as we have such a very essential relationship with them. However, we can really ponder our relationship with anyone or anything. There are fibers connecting us to everything. When I was at Boston University, I audited a graduate-level sociology course. It was titled Theoretical Approaches to the Study of Religion, a very heady course. Good thing I audited it. I still remember the professor putting a pen on the table in front of us and talking about the web of relationships that were involved in the making of the pen and getting that pen to us. When we go to the store to buy a pen, we go pick out a pen and we trade the pen for some money at the cash register. It all seems so simple on our end, but there are dozens, if not hundreds of steps from the initial idea of the pen to the design, to the materials, to the manufacturing, to the distribution, to the marketing, to the selling. A web of relationships. I had never thought about objects in the same way after that. People are involved in every step in the process, and the process directly affects their lives. As people cooperate and deals are made, the progress of the pen continues. The relationships humans have with the rest of the world are affected too, for better or often for worse. Some people have resolved to only buy clothes from companies who pay their workers fair pay and give them decent working conditions. Not everyone can afford to buy things from the best companies, and many people don't have time to research every single item they buy. However, awareness costs nothing. We can pick up that pen or that fork, that toothbrush or that book, and we can pause for a moment and think with gratitude for all the people who made it possible for us to have that item. And occasionally, we may be able to make some win-win choices, such as if we have the means to buy food that was grown or raised organically, or at least pesticide-free. This food is not only probably better for us, but eating this way is also an act of kindness to the land, the bees, the butterflies, the farm workers, and the birds. Even better if we can obtain this food from local farmers markets where we can support and get to know our neighbors and not contribute to heavy environmental transportation costs. Or we can grow some of our own food if we're able. I want to note that not everyone can afford healthy food. All the ways our world are connected also include the intersection of many kinds of injustice. The way resources are divided in our world is not fair. If we work for food justice, we will probably find ourselves dealing with classism, racism, and other kinds of oppression and discrimination. Helping dismantle one kind of injustice can sometimes help dismantle other kinds as well, since everything is connected. Also, since everything is connected, when we do inner work on ourselves to become more peaceful, more mindful, or more compassionate, the work we do helps others too because of this interconnection. We don't know how far-reaching the ripples may go when we do this inner work, or when we do anything for that matter. However, there are definitely ripples that come from all our actions and our words. There is even more power when we work together. The father of sociology, Emil Durkheim, believed that the basic unit of humanity is not the individual, but rather the community. Our interconnection requires that we work in community for the kind of world we want to help create. It takes all of us working together to make a difference. Here is a story from India. There was once a flock of birds pecking for seeds under a tree. A hunter came along and threw a heavy net over them. He said, "Aha, now I have my dinner." All at once, the birds began to flap their wings. Up, up they rose into the air, taking the net with them. They flew to a tree, and as the net snagged in the tree's branches, the birds flew out from under it to freedom. The hunter looked on in amazement, and he scratched his head and he muttered, "As long as those birds cooperate with each other like that, I'll never be able to capture them." Each one of those birds is so frail, and yet together they can lift the net. We are like those birds whose life-saving strength lies in their ability to act as a community. We can do our part together to help lift the nets of oppression. And I'd like to close with a poem by Mary Oliver called "Wild Geese." You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Announcing your place in the family of things. May you know your place in the family of all things. May you feel at home in the riddle and the mystery. May you always be supported by the relationships that connect you to everyone and everything. Amen, and blessed be.
This next piece I'm going to be playing for you guys will be Reflections by Thelonious Monk.
Thank you. We will now have the candles of joy and concern. But first, one announcement. We are still collecting donations for the Milford Community Meals Program. So they would need your cans of soup and chili and pasta, breakfast items like small boxes of cereal and individual cartons of milk and bottles of water, things such as that. I don't think they need winter clothes anymore. But you can drop those off whenever we're at the church Sunday mornings, or you can make arrangements with me or anyone else who has a key, and I or someone else will take them over to share with those people in the wider Milford area who are food insecure. So thank you for that. Thank you for all who have already donated. This morning, I would like to invite those present to come forward and light their own candles if they choose, and then I will light the candles for the other ones. So it looks like we have 1 or 2 people.
Well, last week was a candle of joy for spring. This is a candle of hope for renting out an old house to a new tenant and the excitement of meeting the people who are interested in renting it and getting to know their situations a little bit, and then having to choose amongst the options. So let's hope it works well.
I'm glad to hear that things are progressing, Peter. Whenever I drive by that house, I think of you and hope for a good process. Is there anyone else present here who would like to light a candle? All right. Well, I have a few other candles today. Put this one down. First, I want to let you know that our parishioner, Sonia Porter, is in a rehab facility in Uxbridge right now. She's been struggling with a lot of things. I now have permission to let you know. She fell 4 times in the past month. And some of you know she has a long-time traumatic brain injury, and she also has cancer. So we're really thinking of Sonia Porter and sending her good thoughts and prayers and love. And I've arranged a visit with her next week. They said I had to wait till she was off of precautions, but I'm looking forward to seeing her this week. I have one more sad candle. Some of you already know this, but for those who don't, I received word of the passing of a previous minister that you had in the early 90s, Cindy Fredo Chetwynd. Now, in later years, she was just known as Cindy Fredo. I lit a candle for her on Palm Sunday because I heard that she went into hospice, and it turns out that she actually died that day. I really had felt compelled that morning to make sure I lit a candle for her, so I hope that our good thoughts for her helped in some small way to give her some peace. And so this is for her and for her family and for those of you who knew and loved her and all who loved her. For Cindy. We have a candle of joy from Marcia. A candle of joy for the spring and increased freedom because of being vaccinated. And for the flowers and the bees. Joy for all these things from Marcia. Rita Paddock, one of our parishioners, is having her 90th birthday soon. And the parade was supposed to be on Friday, which is her actual birthday. However, her daughter wrote to me and said that it might work better for the family if we celebrated the Women's Alliance meeting on the 19th. And she could bring a cake. So she hasn't told me which way yet. And so as soon as I know, I will let you know. But we will be celebrating her big birthday for Rita Paddock. And I will light the final candle for those things that remain unspoken in our hearts and minds this morning. I will now extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but we carry with us the warmth of caring community, the light that comes from seeking knowledge, and the flame of passionate commitment. These we carry with us. We will have the benediction and the serenity prayer, but first I would like to announce the postlude at the very end, which will be an organ postlude, which we are very excited about. Thank you, Matt. The hymn is called "We Would Be One," and I want to read a few of the words. We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one, we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice, strive to make us free. So great to have organ postludes again, now that we're back in the sanctuary. And the benediction words that I wrote from two elements. As we are living beneath the great Big Dipper and swimming in that very stream together, let us cherish the beings we live beside. Let us be one in working for a nobler world with love and justice and freedom. Go in peace until we meet together again. And please join me in saying the serenity prayer. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.